Namaste and welcome to the show The Young Achievers. Today, we're joined by a writer, communicator, and a youth voice whose works moves across freelance writing and public dialogue. Through her writing and leadership, she engages with people, culture, and conversations that often are unheard. Please welcome Mimamsha Dhungel ji. Mimamsha ji, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, PINAK ji.
You write about people, culture, and emotions. What do you think is missing in Nepalese media?
That's a very interesting question. I started writing when I was a very young student. I started writing when I was in 7th grade, as far as I remember. And it has evolved throughout these years according to my experiences, my perspectives, the people that I've met, the stories that have inspired me. But now that I've studied media from an academic perspective and I have also worked in media for a while, I think what is missing in media right now is critic without arrogance, what that means. People are always critiquing things, they're always criticizing things, they have an opinion to give about almost everything that they have. Sometimes they speak about things that they don't know just to sound smart, So I think the media landscape lacks criticism without authenticity and arrogance.
Ani, when did you get into writing for something that you enjoy and something that becomes central of who you are?
I think I started out as a hobby like any writer would, whenever I was young, I would journal things. आफूलाई मन लागेको कुराहरू लेख्ने डायरीमा हुन्छ नि च्यात्दै फाल्दै त्यसरी सुरु गरेको हो तर बिस्तारै चाहिँ that it became, like you said, writing became the core point of who I was, not just because it allowed me a space to tell things that I was not very comfortable sharing otherwise, but it also gave me a lot of space to introspect and reflect and think about things that mattered around me. So अहिले चाहिँ I wrote initially just as a hobby, then it ventured into professional gigs हरू हुन्छ नि पहिला के हुन्थ्यो पत्रिकामा लेख्यो भने थोरै अमाउन्ट दिइन्थ्यो के सो सानो उमेरमा चाहिँ पकेट मनी बनाउनको लागि पनि लेखे जस्तो भयो अनि बिस्तारै बिस्तारै बढ्दै जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ it became a professional part of my life as well as personal part of my life. It became intertwined. So it's a therapeutic aspect for me right now, whether I write about people, whether I write about culture or emotions. Oily, I'd say it's more about self-expression than anything else.
You wrote, and still do at the Kathmandu Post, where you've written everything about art to human experience. What is the one story you wrote that changed how you see the world?
Well, that brings me back to 2 or 3 years ago. I've done a lot of stories, Kathmandu Post, around 40 as a journalist, working journalist there. But one story that I did that actually inspired a lot of writing in me was a book talk that I did with Mr. Narayan Dhakal. Mm-hmm. So he's an acclaimed writer, and this conversation that I had about his writing journey, his books preferences, and the kind of books he recommended, the whole idea of how he perceived literature, how he pivoted from politics into literature was something that deeply inspired me. And I did a lot of things on literature after that. So that one story that I did with Narayan Dhakal was very inspiring.
In your role with Debate Network Nepal, where you amplified youth voice and critical thinking of everyone, what's the moment from that work, maybe with young debaters, that surprised you or reshaped your own thinking?
So my journey with Debate Network Nepal has been a very long one. I started out as a debater in 2017. Ani 2017 ma Mahakumbha bhanne National Debating Championship huncha. त्यो championship जितिसकेपछि चाहिँ I got this opportunity to represent Nepal in the World Schools Debating Championship in Zagreb, Croatia, where we were the national holders, which was recently broken by our successors भनौँ न हैन. Then I ventured into professional debating for a while. त्यसपछि adjudication अनि managerial position ma I am a managing director or vice chair bhayera काम गरे Debate Network Nepalमा. Throughout this journey, I think the one, if I have to pick one instance or story where I got inspired by youth voices, is that young people have so much to say, but त्यो platform नै right platform पाइरहेको हुँदैन रे के उनीहरूले हैन. they have so much to talk about politics. They have so much ideas about international relations. They have so much idea about this whole society, culture ko ideas and humanities देखि लिएर political theories देखि लिएर so much knowledge is there in the youths. But then the skill, debate is not just a skill of tug of war होइन क्या यो होइन. It's more about त्यो badminton खेल्छ नि हामीले टुक it's that back and forth game जस्तो हो क्या. So you acknowledge somebody else's opinion while also standing and validating your own points. So when young people acknowledge others' ideas, and when they also are confident enough to give their point of view, it moves you as an adjudicator. तपाईले कहिले पनि एउटा डिबेट रुममा बसेर सानसाना बच्चाहरूले डिबेट गरेको सुन्नु भयो भने चाहिँ it's not त्यो ट्रेडिसनल फर्मको कलम ठुलो कि तरवारवाला डिबेट हुँदैन क्या. It's more like parliamentary form of debating, which is a lot of discipline, rigor, and अहिले अब elections ko bela cha haina. We should be having candidates ko debate pani hunu parne ho Nepal ma pani, to know about their manifestos, to know about their agendas. So त्यतिखेर एउटा debate room ma चाहिँ जब यो हुन्छ नि त्यतिखेर चाहिँ you actually look at them as future leaders. So much potential, so much courage, so much of nuanced ideas and analysis. So every time, there's no one moment that I can pick. Every time that I sit in a debate room, whether I debate or whether I adjudicate, so the young people are always full of energy and insights, and that's amazing.
In your life, how has debate, made you, how has it helped?
If I didn't agree with something, I didn't agree with it. So there was no negotiation or no looking back at other arguments. So debate गर्न थालेपछि चाहिँ my idea of the whole world has become more wider, broader. I'm more accepting naya ideas haru. Even if there's an idea that's polar opposite of me, I've become more tolerant of it, more accepting of it. And I think the change that I see in myself is not only has it made me a better communicator, it has also made me a better thinker in terms of how I process things, and made me critically aware of what's going around.
Communication is both art and a strategy. How do you approach the balance between telling a story beautifully and making sure it matters, especially when your audience is a young viewer?
एउटा न्युज एङ्गल भनेर लेखिन्छ. हामी पहिल्यै हाम्रो जर्नलिजम स्कुलमै सिकाइन्छ what perspective are you writing the story for, who is the target audience, अनि कस्तो अडियन्सलाई चाहिँ यो स्टोरी फोकस छ भनेर त्यो एस्पेक्टबाट टेक्निकल वेबाट जर्नलिस्टिक पोइन्ट अफ भ्यूबाट लेख्नुहुन्छ भने you write strategically हैन. But I think writing ko एउटा aspect यस्तो हो भन्दाखेरि you do not lose the flair of writing, the aspect, the soul of writing, which comes a lot from you being vulnerable, a lot from you being transparent, and a lot of you pouring your ideas without trying to fake things. हुन्छ नि your authentic self, with you being vulnerable, with you being sensitive, and with you also using trends हुन्छ नि, so that नयाँ नयाँ कुरा जुन आइरहेको हुन्छ राइटिङमा त्यो पनि इन्स्टिल होस्, आर्टिस्टिक पनि होस्, but the strategy, the whole vision behind it, the purpose behind it also remains alive. So it's the responsibility of the writer to do a lot of research and also maintain this balance, the thin line between art and strategy.
You've also been involved in Book Bus Fellowship, where you promote reading and discussion in their community. And what has the work taught you? And how important is a book?
Book is my life. Book बिना म बाँच्दा पनि बाँच्दिनँ. बोकले मलाई जिउने प्रेरणा दिन्छ जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ हैन. But talking about Book Bus Fellowship, I was a US Embassy Book Bus Fellow last year, 2025 मा मेरो fellowship end भयो. त्यसपछि I'm running an independent club called Kagasको Katha, which was inspired from Book Bus को fellowship. I think this entire journey has taught me that बुक बसको कन्सेप्ट यदि कसैलाई थाहा छैन भने म थोरै भनिदिइहाल्छु है. इट्स अ मोबाइल लाइब्रेरी नि त. बसभित्र लाइब्रेरी हुन्छ अनि ठाउँ ठाउँमा गएर त्यो जहाँ त्यो बस जान्छ त्यहाँ लाइब्रेरीको पढ्ने पठन संस्कृति प्रवर्तनका साथसाथै वर्कसप्सहरू गराउने त्यो हाम्रो फेलोसिपको काम थियो होइन. सो द एन्टायर जर्नी हेज टट मी द्याट एउटा किताब जुन हामी प्रिभिलेजको रूपमा लिन्छौँ वी टेक इट फर ग्रान्टेड नि त कति धेरै ठाउँहरूमा त्यो किताब पनि राम्रोसँग नपुगिरहेको हुन्छ नि बच्चालाई किताबप्रतिको माया पनि नबसिसकेको त्यस्तो धेरै ठाउँहरू भेटियो क्या हुन्छ नि देयर इन्टु अब त्यहाँ गेम्सहरू पनि हुन्थ्यो तर किताबभन्दा पनि गेम्सतिर जाने भनेपछि मलाई चाहिँ कहिलेकाहीँ सक लाग्थ्यो कि किताब पढ्नलाई किन मान्छेलाई यति अरुचि भइरहेको आजकल भने जस्तो सो द्याट जर्नी हेज टट मी द इम्पोर्टेन्स अफ इन्स्टिलिङ एन्ड टेलिङ पिपल हाउ इम्पोर्टेन्ट इट इज टु रिड एन्ड एजुकेट युर सेल्फ आउटसाइड त्यो पढ्नै पर्ने किताबहरू त मान्छेले पढिहाल्छ होइन तर वर्ल्ड भ्यू दिनलाई किताब पढ्न कति इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ र आफ्टर आई इस्टाब्लिस्ड दिस क्लब it also tells me that there is a lot of hope, okay? Because we have a lot of members in our club, 30 plus members who come from different walks of life. And all of them are inspired by this one thing, which is book. Book ko lovely join bhako community haru kati धेरै छ नि त it's not just our book clubs there are so many book clubs functional so the journey with US Embassy Book Bus has taught me is that you can be a leader in yourself but until and unless you go into the community and you work with the community हुन्छ नि त्यहाँको अभाव के छ अपुग के छ अनि त्यो थाहा पाइदैन रहेछ क्या
you being a communicator it's in this age it's a bit complex don't you think so किनकि it's everything is virtual and everything अनि how do you navigate pressure internal or external when you put something of yourself in your writing into your writing
I think because I'm a communicator, it's a challenge as well as a tricky aspect of it, हैन किनकि एउटा communicator भएपछि whenever you're putting your ideas forth, you have to bring in with a lot of confidence, and there are areas of a lot of criticism as well. तपाईले भने जस्तै pressure हुन्छ नि त मैले लेखेको कुरामा कसैले fact check गर्ला of course आफैले fact check गर्नुपर्छ पहिले लेख्दाखेरि तर fact check गरेकै गलत भेटिन सकिन्छ हैन कुनै आइडिया कसैलाई मन नपर्न सक्छ so I think it comes as a writer, whether it be freelance writing like me, whether you're writing opinions, whether you're doing mainstream journalism, whether you're doing commercial writings, you have to have a lot of thick skin to make sure that it's a process नि त बिस्तारै evolve हुने process यो writing पनि निखारिँदै जान्छ परिष्कृत हुँदै जान्छ एकैचोटि एकदम खतरा राइटर हुने पनि होइन कोही so त्यो pressure inbuilt हुन it's very tricky किनकि अहिलेको AI को जमानामा there's a lot of misinformation going on there's a lot of infodemic going on this information ko yati dherai u cha ki how does your writing stand out you have to make sure your writing stands out you have to make sure your writing is authentic you have to make sure your writing is well fact checked you have to make sure it's relatable यो सबै प्रेसर ह्यान्डल गर्दा गर्दै पनि एउटा कन्भिक्सन चाहिँ राइटरमा हुनुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ के फेथ इन योरसेल्फ सो द्याट वाट एभर यु राइट it has to reach the people properly.
Often your works are not chasing virality just huncha ni there are often people who talks about story and they want to go viral or something but your work doesn't and it chooses a less virality than creating meanings. How do you protect that intention in fast forward world where everything is you need to create a trend or something?
The word viral ni it tells you it's a disease ni the viral रोग हुन्छ हैन तर मान्छेहरुलाई के लागिरहेछ के कुरा भाइरल भयो भने चाहिँ यो चाहिँ खतरा भयो भन्ने सोचिरहेछ it's a रोग viral it comes from the word virus and it's spreading भनेपछि most of the times it's not great जस्तो लाग्छ है मलाई so the purpose of writing something should never be to create this illness among people अथवा हुन्छ नि यो भाइरल कन्सेप्ट क्रिएट गरेर त्यस्तो चाहिँ मलाई कोही मान्छेमा पनि लेख्दाखेरि यो चाहिँ भाइरल होस् है भनेर लेख्नु चाहिँ हुँदैन जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ है बिकज मोस्ट अफ द टाइम्स इफ युर राइटिङ इज गुड इफ वाट एभर युर डुइङ इज गुड इट automatically gets a lot of audience it gets a lot of reach it gets a lot of subscriptions it gets a lot of audiences हैन which in a good aspect तर भाइरल बनाउन चाहनुहुन्छ भने त it's negative things tend to become more viral जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ के rather than positive कुनै कुरा अब तपाईले मैले आज एउटा सन्देशमूलक भिडियो बनायो भने it's very less likely that it will become viral तर कसैले गाली गलौज दिइराछ कसैले क्रिटिसिजम दिइराछ भने that's more likely to become viral. So youthहरूले आजकल because a lot of them are on social media पनि they have to understand coming from a communicator perspective who works in social media or media field में the intention should never be to the intention should never be to become viral. Okay, it has to become, okay, I will reach as much people as possible in a positive way.
In your writing and speeches as well, there is an emphasis on empathy and nuance. I know. How did your education background help you in that?
My education background is a little complicated and not त्यो हुन्छ नि conventional type को छैन. Plus to some of my science पढेको, which taught me to become very rigid and inflexible. Don't mind if somebody thinks science is very flexible, अथवा I think it's not. It's अलिकति rigidity दिन्छ. And then I ventured into humanities. Bachelor's चाहिँ English literature, journalism and mass communication मा गरेको. I think most of what I studied academically taught me to put myself in others' shoe. कसैको पोम पढिरहेछ भने पनि उसको इमोसन्सलाई पढ्न सिकायो हैन, इन्टरप्रेट गर्न सिकायो, एनालाइज गर्न सिकायो. त्यसपछि whether I'm analyzing a prose or an essay or whether I'm reading about a communication theory, अरू मान्छेले के सोच्छ भनेर धेरै जस्तो सोच्न सिकायो. And then taking bits and pieces from their ideas and building your own ideas. So most of my academic background worked with me, working with people, knowing about people's ideas. So that made the core motto of my life empathy. Okay? Put yourselves in other shoes before doing anything. Whether you give a speech, whether you write, whether you make a video, it's always telling somebody else's story from your perspective. Sometimes it's your story, but also involves other people also. So the empathy bhane koi arulai कोडमा राखेर हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ जुन लेन्स पाइन्छ नि, द्याट्स मलाई चाहिँ मेरो एजुकेसन ह्युम्यानिटिज पर्सपेक्टिभले एन्थ्रोपोसेन्ट्रिजम होस् अथवा सोसल कन्ट्र्याक्ट थ्योरी पढ्दा होस्, जेसुकै पढ्दा होस्, हाउ आर पिपल एट द कोर अफ एभ्रिथिङ. अनि त्यसपछि हाउ एम्पथी म्याटर्स इन इमोसनल रेगुलेसन, साइकोलोजी, सबै कुरा चाहिँ ह्युम्यानिटिज पढेरै आयो जस्तो लाग्छ.
And in your writing as well, isn't it important to give your own voice on something?
Of course. It's very important that you never lose yourself as a writer. But something that you have to agree, we are born out of somebody else's ideas. So it might not be my own saying. It's heard somewhere, I've been inspired somewhere with it. So writing garda, journalism garda, afno voice, a core voice, the integral voice, that makes you unique, that makes you stand out. अथवा एउटै स्टोरी त आक्वै गर्छ नि त हैन. सोच्नुस् त, जस्तै कति धेरै स्टोरी आउँछ जर्नलिजममा, डेली न्यूज पेपर्समा, डेली न्यूजमा एउटै कहानीहरू फरक किन हामी still we subscribe to news, किन we still listen to it, because every time it comes जर्नलिजमको चाहिँ एउटा burden अथवा responsibility अथवा एउटा boon जस्तै भनौँ न, you get the opportunity to make it new every time something comes up with a new angle, with a new perspective, with a new stakeholder. So you have to keep yourself alive, your voice as a writer, while also following the legacy.
With your voice, Hava, which voice matters to you? The one that incites you, that pushes you to create, or the one that's outside, where, they react of the world?
At this age of my life, I try to be guided as much as possible by the inner voice. My voice that asks me to create or communicate or express. The creativity, critical thinking र communication को एउटा amalgam जुन मेरो अन्तरात्माले मलाई गर भन्छ नि, त्यही भोइसबाटै डिरेक्ट हुन खोज्छु चाहे जसो सकेसम्म.
Mimamsha, which voice matters to you the most? The one inside you, or the one who reacts to your work?
That's something that I think about a lot. It will be very unfair for me to say the one that reacts to my work isn't the one that overpowers me a lot of times. Yeah. I try to see, okay, the reaction that comes from my work shouldn't be the guiding force. It's the original voice, the subliminal aspects of everything. हुन्छ नि जुन पहिलेदेखि म लेख्छु, म क्युरेट गर्छु, म क्रिएटिभ हुन्छु, म एक्सप्रेस गर्छु भन्ने जुन त्यो रिल भएको भोइस हुन्छ नि, त्यसले नै मलाई डिरेक्ट गरोस् जस्तो लाग्छ. But of course, like any human being, कहिलेकाहीँ the reactions that I get from my work, that also drives me. But I try to remain as authentic and as त्यो purposeful, त्यो initial voice जुन आउँछ नि, unfiltered, raw, अनि that's the voice I listen to most of the times.
What was the one debate that really inspired you, or you would like to share here?
So this was one of the debate that we had, one of the debates that we had in Croatia के WSTC मा WSTC मा चाहिँ there were 4 rounds that were prepared, हामी पहिल्यै दिएको थियो र 4 rounds चाहिँ impromptu हुन्छ कि ठ्याक्कै 1 घण्टा अगाडि मात्रै टपिक थाहा हुन्छ अनि the topic, the motion was, this house regrets the narrative that motherhood should be glorified भनेर क्या. So that was something where we had to argue कि yes, this house regrets the narrative that motherhood should be glorified, and the opposition had to say no, motherhood should be glorified भनेर. And me as a female अनि who has read a lot of feminist theories, motherhood कसरी glorify गर्नु हुँदैन भनेर आर्ग्यु गर्नु पर्यो थियो क्या. अनि त्यसपछि त्यतिखेर मैले त्यही लिमिटेड अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङमै motherhood should not be glorified, even working women who choose not to be mothers लाई पनि त्यो सोसाइटीले प्रेसराइज गर्नु हुँदैन अथवा सोसाइटीले उनीहरूलाई एन्टागनाइज गर्नु हुँदैन. दे हेभ दिस राइट, मदरहुड इज इन समथिङ द्याट हेज टु बी प्रेसराइज अन यु, यस्तो यस्तो लाइनबाट आर्ग्युमेन्ट गरेँ थिएँ. बट नाउ द्याट आई थिङ्क अबाउट इट, इट चेन्ज fundamentally a lot of things that I think about what a woman stands for. के हुन्छ नि, most of the times whenever you talk about एउटा वुमन हुनुको इन्ट्रिगल पार्ट के हो भनेर सोच्दाखेरि त्यो डिबेटमा म गएको गर्छु क्या. फिर्ता हुन्छ नि, मदरहुडलाई ग्लोरिफाई गर्नु, हाम्रो सोसाइटीले आमा बन्नुपर्छ, मातृत्व भनेको राम्रो हो, यो यसरी ग्लोरिफाई गर्छ नि त. बट एट द्याट यङ एज आई हेड डिबेटेड कि मदरहुड सुड नट बी ग्लोरिफाइड, इट सुड बी लेफ्ट अ फ्री चोइस. अनि त्यसपछि त्यो द नेरेटिभ इज रङ भनेर आर्ग्यु गरेको थिएँ. विच अहिले आएर चाहिँ after I've educated myself a lot on feminist theories, on more on liberalism अथवा स्वतन्त्रताको बारेमा धेरै पढ्न थालेपछि, that makes a lot of sense and I go back to it again and again.
Would you like to tell us more about a feministic writing?
यतिखेर चाहिँ I'd like to remember my mother. My mother is a writer as well. Feminist writing, feminism अथवा feminist writing को
Only for women?
No, I don't think so. Anybody who vouches for equality, anybody who vouches for equal opportunities is a feminist. There are a lot of male friends that I have who say that they are feminists themselves. So feminist writers are good. There are a lot of sections of feminism as well. Feminism is not unidirectional. It's very dynamic. It's a lot of ideas are incorporated into feminism. So intersectionality ko कुरा आउँछ, के कुरा आउँछ. But feminist writing को बारेमा कुरा गर्दा चाहिँ मलाई मेरो आमाको याद आउँछ कि शी इज अ राइटर हरसेल्फ. अनि उहाँले लेख्दाखेरि चाहिँ women are always at the core of it, क्या. Not just because उनीहरू victimized भइरहेको छ, उनीहरू एकदम subjugated छ भनेर हैन. They're given so much power, they're given so much voice. हुन्छ नि, the power, the strength that my mother shows in women, not in terms of competition with men, but हातमा हात समातेर जुन वुमेनले मेनसँग काम गर्न सक्छ भन्ने जुन उहाँले देखाउनुहुन्छ नि. सो द्याट काइन्ड अफ राइटिङ इज समथिङ द्याट आई विश टु सी मोर. त्यो स्युडो फेमिनिजम भएर चाहिँ आजकल हुन्छ नि, कसैलाई डाउन देखाउने, कसैलाई होच्याउने, त्यस्तो काइन्ड अफ राइटिङ इज समथिङ आई पर्सनली डोन्ट इन्डोर्स. अफकोर्स देयर आर राइटर्स हु डु द्याट, तर it's more about equality, it's more about acceptance, and it's more about equal opportunities.
How do you balance that? And if someone is looking to be a communicator, how would you give an advice on? What advice would you give?
Well, that's something you put it out very truly. Communications is a very misunderstood field. There's one posting for communications, and then you're expected to do a job of a designer, a job of a photographer, a job of a videographer, a job of a writer, all in one. But this is not how communications works. It's more about strategic communications. It's more about maintaining relations. Communications, like say, most of the times you're burdened with a lot of tasks. You require a team whenever you work in communications. It's not a one-person job. At the end of the day, any organization, whether it be a corporate house, whether it be a school, whether it be a media house, communications the core mounts. And the business houses are like customers, service-oriented man, service consumer end. So the communications aspect, like say, हिल्चेक्राइ गरिरहेको हुन्छ कि धेरै ठाउँमा जुन प्रायोरिटी दिनुपर्ने हो नि कम्युनिकेसन्स फिल्डलाई त्यो चाहिँ अलिक कम प्रायोरिटीमा राख्छ क्या मान्छेहरूले आजकल जुन बिस्तारै बद्लिँदैछ द नेरेटिभ अब अहिले त गभर्मेन्टहरूको पनि हरेक ठाउँमा सूचना अधिकृत अथवा कम्युनिकेसन्स अफिसर भनेर रोलहरू राख्न थालिएको छ पिपल आर स्लोली अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ द इम्पोर्टेन्स अफ कम्युनिकेसन इन एन अर्गनाइजेसन विच इज अ गुड थिङ फर मी एज अ कम्युनिकेटर एन्ड फर माई फ्रेन्ड्स हु लुकिङ out to be a communications professional. So I think what advice I could give them for youths out there who are willing to become communications officer is the world is changing and you can't stick to a niche quality. Okay, I'm a writer, but writing मात्रै गर्छु, I won't do multimedia भनेर चाहिँ बस्न अलि मिल्दैन जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ. अलि स्किल चाहिँ डेभलप गर्नुपर्छ. Okay, although you want to be a writer, क्यामेरा चलाउन पनि सिक्दा केही हानि छैन नि त because you're writing पेपरमा लेख्नु भएको छ त्यही कुरालाई डकुमेन्ट्री बनाउन सक्नुभयो भने द्याट्स एक्स्ट्राअर्डिनरी पिपल हु वान्ट टु रिड इट पिपल हु वान्ट टु वाच इट सो त्यो डाइनामिक स्किल्स भयो भने चाहिँ आफैलाई फाइदा हो र आफैलाई फाइदा हुने काम किन नगर्ने गिभन द्याट द अर्गनाइजेसन सुड बी मोर अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ द्याट कम्युनिकेसन्स इज नट अ वान पर्सन जब.
Thank you, Mimamsha, for coming. And any last word?
I think this world is all about February Pantha. So love your work, love others, spread love in terms of not the romantic love, in terms of empathy, in terms of understanding each other, in terms of spreading positivity. Criticism and arrogance is something that's so rampant आजको मिडियामा हुन्छ नि आजको सोसाइटीमा कति धेरै हेट छ कति धेरै नेगेटिभिटी छ हैन my only thing is if you don't have anything good to say don't say anything at all refrain from saying anything at all don't make this space that we have a digital space we have so full of negativity and so much toxicity बाट चाहिँ टाढा रहेर let's live our lives full of love and laughter.
Mimamsha, thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts on your journey. And thank you so much for watching. This has been The Young Achievers. I hope to see you next time. Namaste.